Good morning. We're with Lex Farias today. He's the owner of LexCorp Plumbing, a personal friend of mine, and we're going to talk today about working with your partners, or working with a partner, working with a spouse. I'm Josh Farley, president of Redline Electric and Solar. Join me as we talk to contractors, business owners, and experts who are willing to share their experiences to help you overcome obstacles when you're taking your business up and to the right. Lex, thanks for coming. I appreciate it. Tell us what you do and who you do it for.
Well, my name is Lex. I'm a plumber, and I own a plumbing company.
Okay.
And we're a family-owned and operated affair. Been in business for about 6 years now. My cousin's in one truck. My son's in another truck. It's me here. My wife's been helping me in the business in the office.
Gotcha. You do commercial, residential, you do everything?
We do everything, commercial
Gotcha.
and residential.
So I want to talk to you today because you're a good friend of mine and you're willing to come in and talk. A lot of people, it's hard to get a perspective on working with a partner in scenarios that aren't necessarily great for the business. And I know that you're willing to come in and share some of those experiences.
Sure.
And hopefully your wife never sees this. So we won't tell her. So starting out, when did you and your wife begin working on the business? Did you start the business before her, or tell us how you got started?
Well, that's a good question there. I actually had a shoulder injury, and I ripped apart my shoulder, and I had to go under the knife for it. And the company I was presently working for laid me off.
Gotcha.
And at that point, I have family, children, kids. You got to do something. So at that point, I was going to recover and go back to work for these people, but my wife was pretty upset about it. I said, no, screw that. You're going to go do this on your own. I said, great. So she was actually the catalyst. She
Very supportive.
She put the boot in my ass, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to do this yourself.
I don't think you can take that any other way.
No,
It makes sense.
pretty much. And I'm grateful for that. So we started the business together like that, off of unemployment. We sold the car. That's how we got the money to get the paperwork. Basically, I sold my wife's car for a stack of papers just so we could legally do this.
Gotcha.
It's amazing how expensive that is to get started, but it is what it is. So we started off like that. I went out, one truck, one-man show for a while there, kind of working it up, building the client base and so forth. And my wife would then, in turn, would run the office side of the business.
Gotcha.
As we grew, at first it was pretty exciting. You know, every win's like a big win. Like, you win the Super Bowl and you win it together, and that's really exciting, especially when you're with your spouse.
Right.
You know, I mean, that makes for a great dinner, a great night, all the way around.
Yeah.
But when you have a loss in the business, where you have something that comes in and things don't go the way they're supposed to, well, now you're having not exactly happy feelings at that moment in the business, for example. At that point, you may find yourself not being happy to be working with your spouse at that moment, because whatever happens during the day, well, you're still going to come home at night with her. You're still going to have dinner with her. You're going to end up going to the same bed together.
Right.
And those sentiments can carry on through.
That's definitely tough because for me, you know, if something goes wrong at work or I'm not having the greatest day, I can escape from that and come home and spend time with my family, and there's not that awkwardness of, hey, something went wrong. Nobody's at fault per se, even, but there's just still a cloud and
absolutely.
cloud overhead.
I mean, the most common thing that I know that married people fight about, or the most stressful part of any relationship, is generally money.
Yep.
So if money is the thing in a business, well, the business is designed and built to generate money.
Right.
And as you can imagine, if things aren't going hunky-dory well, it's stressful.
Correct.
And that stress really does put something onto that relationship. Now, once again, if you have a win in that relationship, it's really exciting. But then again, when certain things do pop up, and life always throws us a curveball from time to time, and that's how we overcome those obstacles.
Right.
You know what I mean?
No, those are the lessons. I mean, anytime you fail, it's a lesson learned.
Right.
So it's, you know, the more times I fail, the better I get.
Yeah, the trials and tribulations.
So currently in your business, your wife worked with you.
She actually recently just got a job. Working outside of the business, and she's actually phasing out of it. After 6 years with this, she's come to the same conclusion that I have, that this is very stressful for our relationship, our marriage. And both of us were able to identify that and say, well, let's make it different.
I think that's probably the biggest key is when you're the owner of a business and you're driving the ship and you know what's right to move forward, it's got to be a struggle
It is.
When your wife has a difference of opinion or maybe feels that something else is more important. I know in my experience, my wife has thought that I need to not do some work or not take a call or not go on a job when there's something important for her at home in our family. So we have a difference of opinion sometimes when I think I need to be somewhere for work and she thinks I need to be somewhere for our family.
I guess the point would be if someone's considering starting a business with their spouse, that they really have a strong outline on it, identifying what each role is, who's in charge, who's not in charge of this category, or so forth. Because at the moment you guys start butting heads, that's when the stress levels start to raise.
Right. So you need to determine: are you guys partners? Is it a boss-employee relationship? Because I don't think that's a healthy relationship to be. But there's also accountability. So even if you are partners, there's accountability, and with partners that don't live together or aren't spouses, if that accountability is not being accounted for, you can go home and hash it out with your wife or throw things back and forth with your confidant. But in your situation, when you work with them, it's tough to hold them accountable when you have to see them over the dinner table, for sure.
Right, and you want to have a good dinner.
Right.
I mean, you don't want to sit there and bring these emotions home and be hanging out with your children. And
so looking back, let's say you started over. Looking back, what would you put in place to keep the friction from escalating?
To do things differently, I would definitely say outline the business better. Anybody who's starting a business really needs to do some research on like accounting, tax laws, and those kinds of things and those kinds of processes. That way your office is actually functioning proper. When we started the business, like I said, it was off of unemployment, so it was a real trial by fire.
Right.
I paid for my lessons.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
I paid a few, paid the tax man
So
more
you
than I
think?
need to.
So you think? Is there a system or a program or something that you maybe should have had in place, or a software? How did you guys keep your books? How did you guys communicate back and forth to each other? Like when I first started, it was a handwritten 3-sheet invoice. I'd fill it out, hand it to the customer would give me paid, and then just go right to the box. It'd be filed under done. So as you evolved and you're starting to give people terms and where they can pay you 30, 60, 90 days, how do you keep track of that stuff? Is that her responsibility? And then how do you communicate as far as where?
That's been actually one of the biggest struggles in my business.
Okay.
Has been getting the work from the guys in the field into the office, proper paperwork. Because obviously you get a guy who doesn't fill out the paperwork the right way. Now the office staff is having to hunt down that information that's not being provided on the paperwork.
Right.
It makes that job a lot longer in the office. And that would definitely be a stress factor
For sure.
that you're going to have over the dinner table when your guys that you're in charge of aren't doing what they're supposed to do, and they're not interfacing with the office that she's in charge of.
And she's sitting at the dinner table going, you need to get these paperwork in so I can do my job
And
properly. And
Right.
it goes both ways, so you...
And at that point, you just want to have dinner. I mean,
Right,
I'm being honest,
I get
you
it.
know what I mean?
Right, I get it. So what did you guys use? Did you use QuickBooks?
QuickBooks.
You use QuickBooks now, or you used it when you first started?
We've actually always used QuickBooks.
Okay,
We first started off with a spreadsheet.
gotcha. Like
And
Excel?
Excel.
Gotcha.
And my wife's brilliant with Excel, and she's brilliant with that kind of stuff. I'm not.
Right.
Okay? Let's
Right.
put it bluntly.
No, I get it.
She would make it very complicated. I had a hard time following. I'm a hands-on kind of guy. I'm very mechanical. So at that point, that was kind of a tough one also as well, because I had to learn her process a little bit. And then we got into QuickBooks, and we had to relearn everything into QuickBooks kind of a deal.
Right.
So QuickBooks is what we use to track work orders and open invoices and so forth.
Gotcha. So now that she's transitioning out, how do you feel that relationship's working?
It's gotten better. I mean, this is recent. This has only been a couple months. I
Gotcha.
mean, literally. And I feel that it's gotten better. I mean, don't get me wrong. We've still had some trials, we'll say, some challenges that have come forth during the process, of
Right.
course, because she doesn't have her 40 hours now in the office. She's got a different job. So that transition factor, I'm taking over more of the office stuff. And then I have another office gal coming in, and we're training her to come into it.
Right.
And which I'm appreciating, having the fact that I'm not married to her.
Right. No, I understand.
Pretty cool.
I mean, it's the hierarchy of what needs to happen and the accountability you can hold
Exactly.
to her. And it's if your wife didn't do her job, what are you going to do? Fire her?
Right.
I mean, you
Can't do it. There's nothing. There's no recourse. There's
Right.
nothing. I think one of the biggest things, like I said, if you're going to have a business with your spouse, is really outlining your roles. Because we didn't outline our roles really. You know what I'm saying? It was more, we would just free everybody. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm the plumber. I'm the one that fixes the toilet. I would never send my wife out to fix the toilet because
Correct.
that's not what she's going to do.
Right.
But really outlining this needs to be done and this needs to be done, and I myself have to follow those rules that we outline as well.
Well,
you know?
you want to set expectations
Sure.
with everybody that's in your organization, and you don't want your wife to feel as an employee, even though it's an employee. It could be an employee role. You know, she has feedback and importance, and she's been there supporting you from day one. But you want to make sure that everybody knows what the expectations are from day one. Tell us about some of the good times. Like, what's the best thing about working with your wife?
Oh, when you get a win, man. Like, I'll give you an idea. So we're working on these big bids and what have you, and I'm out in the field running around doing work also. I'm fixing showers, I'm fixing leaks, whatever, all the different things that we do as plumbers. And I'd give her the task to put together a bid, for example. And she'd have to call a supply house, grab the numbers, put it all together, stick it up, send it to the customer. Customer approves it, everything's done. I rarely didn't even have to touch that deal.
Right.
And she did it. Well, that's a huge win. That's exciting. And I would come home from work and she would be happy about it. Hey, look what I did today.
Right.
And that's a fantastic feeling. There's nothing better than
There's a lot
that.
of accomplishment there. Yeah.
It is. It's a great feeling. You're gonna have a great dinner. You really are. I'll tell you that. Everybody's high on the hog. Everybody's happy when things go right. But now another expectation. I'm gonna throw myself under the bus on this one. There was a time when she put together a bid for a customer. I got swamped out in the field. I couldn't meet that bid
Right.
in a timely manner, and the customer ended up grabbing someone else because of the timing.
Right.
It wasn't because we weren't able to do the work. Obviously, it was just time. Well, I didn't have a good dinner that night. You know what I mean? I got chewed out for me not holding up my end of the bargain, for example.
Gotcha.
And that makes it kind of tough sometimes because, you know, as an owner, you want to feel that you're the captain of the ship, you're commanding the whole thing, but
we all know in relationships the wife is.
well, absolutely. I'm talking about the work, okay, business.
Is that too 19th century to say?
Happy wife, happy life, man.
Right.
I mean, let's put it that way.
No, I get you. Let's talk something totally different. Let's go a different direction now. So when you first started, looking back now, or actually, let's look at right now. What is the biggest struggle in your business right now besides people? Obviously, everybody's looking for right people, but what is the biggest struggle? How do you forecast moving forward?
People. I hate to say it that way, even though you said no, but
I said no people. So
I
let's
know.
go dig. Let's dig
go
deeper than
deeper
there.
than people.
Yeah. So what do you put in place?
to grow and get bigger.
Yeah. To get to, so how did you get your
We're a
last
labor
guy?
company. My last guy I just hired on. I've known him for 18 years,
Gotcha.
and I hired him 18 years ago for another company. I trained him at the other company.
So was
So
this
he's-
happenstance he was looking for a job? Or
Well,
how did he find out? about
We've
you?
been friends this whole time, and we've always kept in touch and everything. And the owner of the company he was working for and him had a bit of a falling out, and I happened to catch wind of
You
it in the right of the
swooped right
moment.
in and-
Oh yeah,
and so-
absolutely. I swooped right on
You've
in
got
there.
to
and-
take care of your employees because
Yeah.
that's what's going to happen if you don't.
Exactly.
And I think we've all experienced that for sure.
And this guy's been wanting to jump ship over to come over to work with me because of our relationship, and we feel we could do a lot better over here. But he hasn't been able to because of the pay. Obviously, he's getting paid way well over there.
Right.
I couldn't afford him.
Well, you got to
So-
have money. I mean, you
Right.
got to make profit to
Exactly.
pay your people. So thinking about guys just coming up. Let's say your son wanted to open his contracting company. Let's think about the people that come after us. What
Actually-
are words of wisdom, things that we put in place? What do you think your advice would be?
For him to open up his own business, like moving forward.
Yeah. So if your son was going to open his own business, what would your advice to him be?
First thing I tell him is take an accounting class. Learn good accounting in your books. Good books will give you the best tool, the best pulse for your business. So you'll know where you need to work on your business and what part and what aspect.
Would you have a software you would suggest to him?
QuickBooks for starters. QuickBooks seems to be the standard along
Right.
the board. It's very, all accountants know QuickBooks, so it's easy to interface with other people, not just your own business.
Gotcha.
For that kind of thing. So if you need to ask help from an accountant or somebody, a tax man or something of that nature, the interface is a lot easier.
Okay. What
So
else?
I would definitely recommend QuickBooks for that. I'd also recommend learning about taxes and how the tax system works. One of the trials that we went through, was the filing of taxes in a timely manner.
The TPTs.
The TPT. So oftentimes this letter would come to my office and it would be treated like a bill.
Yep.
So you don't send your electric bill back with no check. That's just crazy. They're going to shut off your power, right? But with the government, they want those filings because to them it's very important to know what you owe them.
Right.
So, and if you don't file in a timely manner, they'll ding you with like a late filing fee. Oh, after that, then that one filing didn't get filed in time or got forgotten about for 6 months. It was $95 for each month that it wasn't filed.
Yikes.
And next thing you know, here comes the end of the year, and I'm looking at my tax bill. I'm like, what do you mean I got like $1,000 or $2,000 in penalties and extra? This is the trial by fire part.
Right.
So either A, you learn the lessons before you go out, or B, you're going to pay to learn the lessons. Either way, you're going to pay.
Right.
So I'd rather pay less money for a class and actually get an education in it than pay by trial by fire, you know?
Well, that's the constant struggle of tradesman turn business owner.
Yes.
Is you know, we're tradesmen first, and we don't really think about becoming a business owner until it's too late.
You're thrusted into that situation.
Right, until we've already learned some valuable lessons. So that's why we're constantly learning. So if your son was going to start his own business, probably plumbing. I mean,
Caves and honey.
Oh, honey. Yeah, okay. So finances, taxes. What else? What else you got?
Finances, taxes. Also figure out where you're going to find your customers. I mean, look for the prospective customer client and how you're going to go about getting those jobs.
Right.
Also with the ethics of the business, and I think that's very important. If you don't teach your kids, or in this situation like we're talking about, good ethics in business, they'll be out of business before they know it because no one's going to want to use them. You can't be the lowest man on the totem pole either when you're making your bill because no one will use you because you're the low guy. You're obviously too cheap.
I heard an entrepreneurism once about that. You know, there's always somebody willing to go out of business faster than me, faster than you. So if you're going to compete on price, that's where we're at. You can't compete on price. Lex, thanks for coming in and bullshitting with us. You're not the only one out there struggling to have a working relationship with their partner or spouse. Great advice, I thought, was set expectations, and so everybody knows what's expected of them. And because if you don't, I know my wife told me if I don't voice my opinion, she doesn't know what I'm thinking. So I think setting expectations is probably the key that I took away.
Good outline.
Thanks for joining us. If you want to get a hold of Lex, how do we do that, Lex?
Best way to get a hold of me is to give me a call, 480-200-4210. And
check out your website.
Or check out the website at LexCorpPlumbing.com.
Yeah, LexCorpPlumbing.com. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. If you like what we're doing here, subscribe to our podcast at iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher, and to our YouTube channel to see more episodes. Go to upandtothe right.org to get all the links.